Hello and welcome back to this Java series, which is accompanying the University of Helsinki's massive open online course. My name's Duncan and I'm going to help you through part 2, section 4, which is looking at methods and dividing our programs into smaller parts. So far what we've been looking at is creating simple functions that run in the main method, and now we're going to be looking at creating our own methods that we can call and use as many times as we want or we need to. So our learning objectives today are to be familiar with the concepts of a method parameter, a method return value, and a program's call stack. You know how to create methods and how to call them from both the main program or the main method, as well as from inside other methods. And finally, you can create parameterized and non-parameterized methods, and you can create methods that return a value. So far we've used various commands: value assignment, calculations, conditional statements, and loops. Printing to the screen has been done with the use of the system.out.println, and reading values using integer.valueof scanner.nextLine. If has been used in conditional statements and while and for loops. We notice that printing and reading operations differ somewhat from if, while, and for, in that the print and read commands are followed by parentheses, which may include parameters passed to the command. The ones that end in parentheses are not actually commands, but methods. Technically speaking, a method is a named set of statements. It's a piece of program that can be called from elsewhere in the code by the name given to the method. For instance, system.out.println calls a method that performs printing to screen. The internal implementation of the method, meaning the set of statements to be executed, is hidden, and the programmer does not need to concern themselves with it when using the method. So far, all the methods have been ready-made Java methods. Next, we will learn how to create our own methods. So here is an example. In fact, I'll go through this and then we'll look at the examples. A method means a named set consisting of statements that can be called from elsewhere in the program code by its name. Programming languages offer pre-made methods, but programmers can also write their own ones. It would in fact be quite exceptional if a program used no methods written by a programmer, because methods help in structuring the program. From this point forward, nearly every program on the course will contain custom created methods. In the code boilerplate, methods are written outside of the curly braces of the main, yet inside the outermost curly braces. They can be located above or below the main. So here we've got our basic class, an example, and we've got these braces here. So one just after example and one right down here at the bottom. So when they say the outer braces, this is what they're referring to. And then the braces for the main method are the one on this line here and this line here. So we can write a method in this space here, that's fine, and we can add more space in if we need to. Or if we add space in between this line and this line, we could write one there as well. So I haven't got my NetBeans open, so let's just quickly get that open and I can show you what I mean. Okay. So I'm just going to open any project. It doesn't really matter which one I'm looking at for now. Okay, so let's see. What we've got here is a previous program that we've ran and completed. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this out. I'll leave the scanner in because we usually have a scanner. So there we go. So quite often I've been putting notes on to show where the end of the class is and where the end of the method are, where the end of the method is, and where end of ifs are, whiles, etc. And I've mentioned before, I believe, about selecting a brace, a curly brace, and it's showing the corresponding brace. So I've selected this opening brace, which has highlighted this brace down here yellow. If I highlight this brace, which is a closing brace, it will highlight this brace here yellow as well. So we can see where a class or a method start and finish. Remember, a class is the whole thing. All of this is a class, and a class is basically just a file, okay? And a method is this, okay? So what they're saying on the University of Helsinki site is that we can create a method in between these two braces, this one and this one. We can add as much space as we want in between there, so we can literally have 5, 6, 10, 100 lines. But when we write our methods, there are sort of a few things that we'll look at in greater detail later that you need to provide. So here you'll notice that I've written public static void, and then this will be our method name. So you can call that whatever you want, it doesn't matter. We can call it cheese, we can call it Duncan, we can call it anything you want. I'm going to leave this one as method name, just so it makes a bit more sense, hopefully. And then inside this method we can write our code. So we could do a system out and do, well, we could just do hello world, because that's a nice easy one, isn't it? And that method there is fine, that's perfectly okay, that's runnable. You can see we've got no red errors, there are no issues. But also, that method doesn't have to go here, it could actually go up here. So it doesn't really matter. The only things that we need to be aware of are that the method stays within the class, so if I drag it down here outside the class, it's not going to like that. And if I drag it inside this method, it's not going to like that either. A method cannot be nested inside another method. Well, I say that I'm aware of. Classes can be nested, but we won't be talking about that for a long time. So I'll just put that back there, and then we'll head back. Actually, let's just undo all of that. I'll put my code back in there that was there before. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the keyboard shortcuts, that was just Control and Z, and it put my code back in there. Okay. So let's observe how to create a new method. We'll create the method greet. So in my example, we had public static void, and then I put method name, but they've called theirs greet, and that's absolutely fine. System.out.println greetings from the method world, and then we'll insert it into a suitable place for a method. So here we've got the opening brace for their main method, and then the close brace for their main method, and then outside of this one, but inside of the class one, they've put their method. Okay, so that method looks good, that looks like that will run. There is one more thing that we need to do before our methods will run or print, and I imagine that we're going to get to that bit next. The definition of the method consists of two parts. The definition of the method consists of two parts. The first line of the definition includes the name of the method, so in this case it's greet. On the left-hand side of the name are the keywords public, static and void. Beneath the line containing the name of the method is the code block surrounded by curly braces, inside of which the code of the method, the commands that are executed when the method is called. The only thing our method greet does is write a line of text on the screen. Calling a custom method is simple. Write the name of the methods followed by a set of parentheses and a semicolon. In the following snippet, the main program, or the main, calls the greet method 4 times in total. So let's go back to our NetBeans and I will show you what we're doing. Okay, so let me just clear this off out again. So again, this is our main. I'm going to write public, static and void. And if you're interested, I'm able to write it so quickly because I'm typing PU and then pressing tab, ST and then tab. If you do VO and tab, you get volatile rather than void. So let's do greet, so let's keep it the same as their example. Open and close curly braces. You don't need to close your curly brace. If you press enter, it actually closes your curly brace for you. Okay, and then inside here we can just do a system out, and then we can write hello user or something like that. It doesn't really matter at this point. We're not actually using the scanner, so we could comment that out or delete it, but for this example it doesn't matter. So if we run this now, remember you can press this green button here or press F6 on your keyboard. So we'll select our class and it will say build successful, but we won't actually get any output. So we'll just wait for my computer to catch up. Okay, for some reason it's not saying build successful, but it should say build successful because we haven't got any errors, there's nothing wrong. But you might have expected the system out to print down here. But we've written a method, but we haven't actually said to NetBeans that we want this method to run. So what we do is write the method name, followed by the open and close parentheses and a semicolon. And if we run this now, it will print out systemout.print hello user once here. Now the really good thing about methods is that you can run them as many times as you want. So we can add in 6 if we wanted, and rather than typing out 6 S outs, we've only done it once, but the method runs that many times, or 5 times, sorry. Okay, just head back here. So, okay, so here they're looking at showing what happens when we put the method in different orders. So here we've got a mixture of system outs and method calls. So again, if we have a go at that, so what we could do is system out. This is our first method. call. So it's a method call. You call the method. Let's do, this is our last method. Okay, and then F6 to run it. And then what we're going to get is this system out, these 4 prints, this system out, and then this one. Okay, so you can see how that works. So let's just go back here. The execution of the program produces the following output. So it's very similar to the example that we did, just with slight changes. The order of execution is worth noticing. The execution of the program happens by executing the lines of the main method in order from top to bottom, one at a time. When the encountered statement is a method call, the execution of the program moves inside the method in question. The statements of the method are executed one at a time from top to bottom. After this, the execution returns to the place where the method call occurred and then proceeds to the next statement. So what we've got here is our, in fact, you know what, I'm going to show you a different example. So we've got, I'm going to delete these apart from one of them, and I'll show you a few method examples. So obviously we've got 2 methods now. We've got our main method and we've got this greet method. We can write another method, again, anywhere we want as long as we follow the rules. So it must be within the class. It cannot be inside another method. And that's really it. So let's just put end of greet method here. And then we can do public, static, void, second method. Again, you can call it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. And then that's our basic body of our method. So what we can do now is say system out, started method. Then we're going to call greet. Okay, so we wrote the method name followed by the open and close parentheses and a semicolon. So you can call methods from other methods. Then we're going to write system out end of method. Okay, and then what we're going to do is get rid of, we're going to comment out greet for now, and then I'm going to, actually let's just get rid of that so we can see. So I'm going to call the method second method. And what's going to happen is this method is going to be called. So our main is going to read down to this line, see this, jump straight down to here, run this method, run this line of code. It's then going to see this method, it's going to jump straight to here, run this line of code, see that that's the end of the method, and return back to where it came from, which will be here. Then it's going to run this method. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll run that. I'll just drag this over here so we can kind of see a bit clearer. So you can see that we've got the start of our method, which is this one here. Then it's jumps from here to greet method, ran that, then jumped back, and then run that. Okay, so that's quite, I think, hopefully a good illustrative way of showing a bit how methods work. So this is then the order of execution is worth noticing. That's absolutely true. So let's have a look at this example, and it looks like we're going to step through this. So here we go, we've got our system.out.print. It's the output here. Then it reads this line. So we're going to jump down to here, and you can see the arrows jumped there. It's going to finish this line and jump back up. So there you go, it's read the last line of the method, then it jumps back up, reads or prints this to console, sees this one, jumps back down here again, finds the end of the method, and then jumps back up. Okay, so it's quite a good illustrative example as well to follow. So we've got our first challenge. Strictly speaking, the main program itself is a method. When the program starts, the operating system calls the method main. The main method is the starting point for the program, since the execution begins from its first line. The execution of the program ends at the end of the main method. Okay. So create a method called print texts, which prints the phrase "in a hole in the ground there lived a method," and a new line. So I am going to copy this. Oh, wrong application. So let's go to hole in the ground. What I'll do is I'll just close this down as well, actually. There we go. So, they've already created the method for us. How very kind. So all we need to do then is print out this output. So that is going to be a nice little system out. So we've got our method here, and the call has already been put in for us as well. So all we need to do is, you can put a new line in or delete this line, it doesn't matter which. We're going to put a system out in, and we're going to paste in the code or the string literal they want us to use. So let's give that a run locally. Just drag this back down the bottom again. There we go, and there we go. We've got a hole in the ground that lived a method, and you can see that the cursor is on a new line. So let's run that against the server and see what we get back. Great, so we've got a pass on that, so let's OK that one. Right, click it, close it down. Give our points a little refresh. Brilliant. So here we've got a new exercise called Reprint. Expand the previous program so that the main program asks the user for the number of times the phrase will be printed. How many times the method will be called. So how many times? 7, and then it's printed out 7 times. So we're going to need a loop. So let's head back over here, open out our reprint. Oh, I've dragged that to the wrong place, let's put that back there. There we go, cool. Okie dokes, so we have got our scanner already, that's good. If we're asking a user for something, we will need to get an input. So if it's a number, it's going to be an integer, isn't it? So we'll create an int input. So int, I call it times, equals scanner.nextInt. And then we're going to use, we could use a for loop, we can use pretty much whatever loop we want. What do we need to do? A hole in the ground that lived a method, so that's just exactly the same. So let's grab that, put that in here, paste that there, and then we can do our for loop. So I'm just going to do, there we go. Interestingly, that's actually a valid for loop. But what we need to do is do int, we can do I or count, whatever you want to call it, equals 0. And then while I is less than or equal to times I++, so that will increment the counter, and then we can do print text like that. Okay, so let's give that a run locally, see what happens. Oh, did we need to do a prompt actually? Yeah, how many times? Okay, let's just stop that. So let's put the prompt here, so system out, how many times. Oh, it's still running, let's close that there. There we go, right, let's give that a run. Let's do 3. So we've got 4, and that'll be because I set this to 0. So a way to overcome this is either change it to 1 or get rid of the equals and then just have less than. So let's do 3 again and make sure we actually get 3 printouts. There we go, excellent. So let's send that off and run that against the server and see how we did. Lovely, and we've got a little pass. So let's OK that one. Right click and close and head back to here, give our points a refresh. Excellent. So from here on out, when introducing methods, we will not explicitly mention that they must be located in the correct place. Methods cannot be defined, for example, inside other methods. The names of methods begin with a word written entirely with lowercase letters, and the rest of the word begins with an uppercase letter. This style of writing is known as camel case. Additionally, the code inside methods is indented by 4 characters. I use a tab space if that makes any odds. In the code example below, the method is poorly named. It begins with an uppercase letter and the words are separated by underscores. The parentheses after the method have a space between, and the indentation in the code block is incorrect. In contrast, the method below is correctly named. The name begins with a lowercase letter and the words are joined together with the camel case style. So you can see that the first letter is lowercase and then every first letter of every other word, or every word after, sorry, is uppercase. The parentheses sit next to each other and the contents are correctly indented. The method has its own code block, so the indentation of the code is 4 characters. The code below contains a method that has been named with an incorrect style. Write here the name of the method corrected to the right style. So we can say print coding is cool. So notice that the first letter of every word after the first one is uppercase. Excellent, there we go. Parameters are values, so parameters are here. This is a parameter in between the parentheses. Parameters are values given to methods that can be used in its execution. The parameters of a method are often defined on the uppermost line of the method within the parentheses following its name. The values of the parameters that the method can use are copied from the value given to the method when it's executed. In the following example, a parameterized method greet is defined. It has an int type parameter called number of times, or num of times. We will call the method greet with different values. The parameter num of times is assigned the value 1 on the first call and 3rd on the second. So here we've got greet1, so it's passed in the number 1 here, and it's using that number 1 as our loop. So here we've got 1 printout, we've got the blank line here, and then we've got the one with the 3 printout there. Just like when calling the predefined method system.out.println, you can pass an expression as a parameter. So if you think back to here, this method, system.out.println, we're passing a parameter, or it's called an argument at this point, in between the curly braces and the double quotes. If an expression is used as a parameter for a method, the expression is evaluated prior to the method call. Above, the expression evaluates to 3, and the final method call is of the form greeting3. Okay, so here we go, we've got another challenge. So create the following method in the exercise. Okay, so we've got our own method created again. It should print the numbers from 1 to the number passed as a parameter. 2 examples of the method's usage are given below. Okay, let's go back to here. Let's get that open. Oh, have I got the right one? I thought there was a method in there, from one parameter to another. Oh, okay, that's fine. What I'm going to do is just copy this, just so I make sure that I get it absolutely right. I'm sure most of you have found now that it's not very forgiving on typos. So I'm going to do public static void print number, and then open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace and press enter, and that's our sort of base of our method created. So I'm just going to add some comments in. So this is end of main method, end of method, and then here we've got the end of class. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we need to print. So it's the numbers. Okay, so they want us to make sure the method takes a parameter. So it's taken a type of integer because it's a whole number, and then we can call it whatever you want. Input I, however you want to call it, that's fine. And we can just put our method call in here. Actually, I wonder how this is going to work, because when we submit it, it's going to be expecting to have a number in there. Let's just put 5 in anyway. Okay, so now we need to write our loop. So we could do a while loop, we could do a for loop, it doesn't really matter. This one we'll do a while loop, so we can say int input is equal to 0. Don't want to say int input equals 0, that's very silly. So let's leave that. So we've got int input, which has already been declared. We need a counter maybe, or whatever. So we can say while counter is less than input, and then we need to print out the value of the counter. So we need to give counter a value, so there we go. And then we can do system.out.print and then counter. Let's just double check that that is what they're looking for. There we go. So let's give this a run. So we've got 5 here. Let's run it locally. Remember, you can use F6 on your keyboard. So it's probably going to start at 0. Oh, and in fact, I haven't actually put the count plus plus. So what I've just created is an infinite loop, because the counter will always be less than input. So let's do count plus plus, make sure it updates. Oh, gosh. More haste, less speed. There we go, let's run that now. Brilliant. So if we look back at the example, if we enter 5, they want the count to start at 1 and end at 5. So what I actually need to do is change this to 1. So it will come here, see that the counter is 1, it will print it out, then it will add 1, so it will be 2, then it will add another 1. And actually what we want is equal. There we go. Excellent. Right, let's give this a run and see how this works. Great, we passed first time. That's fantastic. Let's OK that one. Right click and give it a close. Head back to the website, give our points a refresh, and scroll on down. So from parameter to 1, create the following method in the exercise template, etc. It should print the numbers from the number passed as a parameter down to 1. 2 examples of the method usage are given below. Okay, do you know what? I am going to be really naughty. Open my recent project. I'm going to copy this. Okay, so we haven't got a method. Just double check and see what the method name needs to be. So print from number to 1. So public static void, paste that in there for now. I'm going to double check this, just copy it, because like I say, they're not very forgiving with typos. Paste that in there, open that. This is a bit of a silly way of doing it. There we go, cool. So let's tidy this all up. So we'll put that up there. We need an int input, and that will get rid of this error here. This is the end of our while loop. This is the end of our method. And this is the end of our class. Okay, so what we can do is just swap the parameter around, or the conditional. Oh, I haven't called it. So that ain't gonna work. So let's go up here, paste in. Oh, we could do 50. Paste that in, give that a run. But we didn't get a printout. Let's have a look. Okay, what I'm gonna do is just put that back and swap these round. I wonder why we're not getting a printout. So print from number, that's fine, that's been detected. So let's put a system out here, just to make sure we're getting in the method. So that's working. So while input is less than or equal to counter, well, it's definitely greater than, because it's 5, so that should keep running, but for some reason it's not getting here. Let's put another, whoops. Another system out here, just as a test. So it's not getting inside the while loop. So while input is less than or equal to counter, system.out.print. Do you know what? I wonder if it's running this one because we haven't closed it. Let's close that. Let's try this now. See what happens when we run it against the server. Did fail. Okay, let's just change the structure of the loop then. So what we can do is, instead of using a counter, we can say while input is greater than 0, system out print our input, get rid of that. Just see if making it a bit less, not that it was complex in the first place, but so we've got a, oh, I forgot to put the number update, didn't I? So we need to do input minus minus. So instead of input plus plus, which adds 1, input minus minus, which deducts 1. Perfect, there we go, let's give that a run. Excellent, and that one's passed. So let's OK this. Close that down. And head back to the website. So from one parameter to another, we've done that. So a method can be defined with multiple parameters. When calling such a method, the parameters are passed in the same order. So here we've got two integers. So before, where we were passing only one, we had just the first number, but now because we're passing another, we'll separate the value with a comma and then put the other one after. So here we've got sum, which is expecting two parameters, and it's printing out the values, or the addition, sorry, by the looks of it. So here we go, we've got a nice little step through example. So we start here with sum, comma 3 and 5, runs down here, and it will print out the math for us. So we go 3 plus 5 equals 8, gets to this section, so it will jump back up here and then run these next lines of code, where we're changing the values of the input, or the passed parameter. Okay, so there you go. So now we've got 2 plus 4 equals 6. And you can see how that steps through. Interesting point to note that here it says return value void. That void relates to this void here. So methods are all made up of similar parts. You've got a public access modifier, a non-access modifier, and a return type. And a return type of void means that it's not going to return anything. Okay. So we've got just a few more to do actually. Oh no, that's quite a big one. Okay, let's see. So we're working on some division now. So write a method called public static void division. We can just copy this actually, then we don't get it wrong. That prints the result of the division of the numerator by the denominator. Keep in mind that the result of the division of integers is an integer. In this case, we want the result to be a floating point number. Right, okay, I'm going to copy this here, just so that there are no typos or anything in the names or the integers. And let's go to our NetBeans. So we're working on division, so let's get that one opened. What's going on here? That's weird. There we go, that's sorted. Right, so let's open up division. So at the moment you can see that the class we're in is from one parameter to one. From parameter to one. So we need to open the correct class. Make sure we're working on the right project, and let's close these ones so that we've only got one open. So once you have implemented the division method, you can try it out here. For example, division 3.5 should print 0.6. So they've given us a test case as well, which is quite useful. That's great. So, oh, and they've also given us the method call as well. Right, so I'm going to delete this line on 14 here, and I'm going to replace it with the information that I copied. I'm going to open a curly brace and press enter, and then it gives me my closed curly brace. All we're really going to need to do here is just one line, maybe two lines actually, because we're going to need to do the mathematical formula and then the print, which actually we can combine into one line. So let's have a look and get that sorted. Oh, caps lock's on. So system out, and then if we're just going to be returning a number, we are going to remove the double quotes, and remember, for a double we need to multiply the equation by 1.0 so that it converts or passes the answer to double. So we'll do 1.0 times numerator divided by denominator. Okay, so if we go back up here, we can uncomment this. So I just press Control and / to uncomment. Let's just make that indented correctly, and we'll press F6 to run the class. And let's see if that works, and we get the 0.6 that we're expecting. Excellent, we've got that. So let's send that one off. See what we get back. Perfect, and that one is done. So that was actually quite a simple one, really, wasn't it? Just one line. You could do it a different way as well if you wanted. This is just one way of doing it. We could have done double answer is equal to, and then we could do 1.0 times numerator / denominator, and then we could have printed out, oops, forgot my semicolon, and then we could have printed out the answer in between these brackets, and we should still get the same answer. So there's always more than one way of doing something. Okay. So let's close this one. There we are, head back to here, make sure we've got our points. Oh, it's very slow this morning. And then let's have a look at this. So write a method in the, write method public static void divisibility by 3, int beginning and int end that prints all the numbers divisible by 3 in the given range. The numbers are to be printed in order from smallest to greatest. Okay, so we're going to be using the mod, or modulo I think it is actually, sorry, operator, and we're going to be using some loops. So let's head back to our NetBeans and get divisible by 3 class open. There we are. So we can just go down here and paste this in straight away, open our curly brace, press enter, and there we go, we've got our basics. Okay, so we've got int beginning and int end. Let me just check something. So we've got a scanner open, so I was wondering if we're going to need to take user inputs, but it looks like we're actually passing the numbers, so we don't need to worry about that scanner, so that makes things a little bit easier for us. Okay, so let's, what we'll do is we'll use one of the ranges or the test cases that we've got here, because we know what the expected outcome should be. So up here, I'm just going to, do you know what, I'm not even going to write that, I'm going to copy it. So we'll copy that, and then inside there we'll put 2 and 10. 2, 10. Okay, and so that's there ready for when we've written our method. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is a loop. So we could do either a while or a for. Do you know what, I'm going to do a while for this one. So while beginning is less than end, and then inside here we can put an if. So this is going to loop round all the while beginning is smaller than end, because obviously when it hits end, that's the top of our number, we want to stop there. And inside that while loop we can do an if. So if beginning mod 3 is equal to 0, so what that's saying is that if the number divided by 3 doesn't have a remainder, then we can do system out print beginning. And then what we'll do is beginning plus plus. So remember, the plus plus is the same as saying +1 or, so I'll show you. So we've got plus equals 1, which we could do, and we've got plus plus like that. Okay, so let's give that a run locally, and we can see here that we've got the expected outputs. So we can test it again on 3 and 6. So instead of changing the numbers, we can just press Control Shift and up, and it will duplicate the line. And then we can do, was it 3 and 6? I think, yeah, 3 and 6. We can test that, and then we'll get 2 series of numbers over here. Interestingly, it didn't print 3. Sorry. So we've got 3, 6, 9, and we've got 3. So I wonder actually if we should do equal to. While beginning is not less than or equal to, because perhaps that should have actually printed the 6 as well. So let's have a look. Yeah, so they've got 3 and 6, and then the last one only printed the 3. So I've changed that to less than or equal to, and then we've got both the numbers here. So let's comment this one out and test it against the server and see what we get back. And there you go, we've got another pass, that's great. So let's OK that there and close this down. Let's see, so we've still got quite a few to do. So what we'll probably do is end it here for today, and I'll get recording the next part as soon as possible. Good luck with these. Hopefully I've shown you a good few ways of doing the challenges. If there is anything you need, please let me know in the comments below, and then next week we'll pick up, or not next week, sorry, next time we'll pick up from here, and we'll begin working through the last part of the tutorial, and then we'll be moving on to the last section of this part. So we're getting through it quite nicely and quickly. So as always, thank you very much for joining me. I hope it's been useful for you, and I very much look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much.